The problem isn't that you think too much. The problem is that you think without architecture. If you're intelligent, you've likely experienced this. Your mind runs constantly. Ideas layer over ideas. Questions generate more questions. And yet, at the end of the day, the work you produce doesn't match the mental effort you expended. This isn't a failure of intelligence. It's a failure of structure. Mental noise is the background hum of unstructured thinking. It is the sensation of cognitive activity without cognitive progress. And for knowledge workers, people who think for a living, it is one of the most expensive inefficiencies they will never measure. This is not a motivational video. This is not therapy. This is an examination of why intelligent minds, left unmanaged, produce chaos instead of clarity. Let's begin with the experience itself. Mental noise feels like this. You sit down to solve a problem. But before you can think deeply about that problem, your mind reminds you of 3 emails you haven't answered, a decision you postponed yesterday, a meeting later this afternoon, a thought you had this morning that seemed important but now feels vague. None of these thoughts are loud, but together they create interference. You try to focus on the task in front of you, but your attention fractures. You make progress, but slowly. You feel busy, but unproductive. And by the end of the day, you are mentally exhausted, despite producing far less than your capability suggests you should. This is not laziness. This is not distraction in the traditional sense. This is cognitive overload masquerading as thought, and it has a cost. When your working memory is cluttered with unresolved threads, your capacity for deep analysis shrinks. Decisions take longer. Mistakes become more frequent, and opportunities that require fast, clear thinking slip past you because your mind is already full. In knowledge work, this translates directly to income loss. You work more hours but produce less value. You delay decisions that would move projects forward. You spend cognitive energy on trivial choices, leaving little bandwidth for the work that actually matters. The question is, why does this happen? The answer lies in how your brain manages attention. Your working memory, the mental workspace where you analyze, compare, and decide, has limited capacity. Researchers estimate it can handle roughly 4 to 7 distinct items at once. Beyond that, performance degrades. But here's the problem. Your working memory doesn't automatically clear itself. It holds on to fragments of previous tasks, unresolved decisions, and incomplete thoughts, even after you've moved on to something new. This phenomenon is called attention residue. When you switch from one task to another, say from writing a report to answering an email, a part of your cognitive resources remains attached to the previous task. Your brain doesn't fully release it, and this residue accumulates throughout the day. Each switch adds a new layer. By mid-afternoon, you're not thinking about one thing clearly. You're thinking about 12 things poorly. This is mental noise. Now consider what happens when you combine this with intelligence. High IQ professionals are pattern recognizers. They see connections others miss. They generate possibilities quickly. They can hold multiple perspectives simultaneously. But without structure, this becomes a liability. Because intelligence doesn't just generate one solution to a problem. It generates 5, 10, 20. And if you don't have a system for evaluating those options, your mind simply holds all of them in parallel, waiting for clarity that never arrives. This is why intelligent people often struggle with decision-making. Not because they lack the capacity to choose, but because they see too many paths and have no framework for narrowing them. The result? Paralysis, overthinking, mental noise. And here is the critical insight. This is not an emotional problem. This is a systems problem. You do not need to feel better about your thinking. You need to structure it. Let's talk about structure. The framework I'm about to describe is not a productivity hack. It is a cognitive architecture. It is designed to reduce mental noise by offloading, constraining, and organizing thought. It has 6 components. First, external capture. Your brain is not designed to store information. It is designed to process it. Every time you try to remember a task, an idea, or a decision, you occupy working memory that could be used for analysis. The solution is simple. Capture everything externally. This means maintaining a single system, digital or analog, where every task, thought, and decision is recorded the moment it appears. No mental tracking, no relying on memory. This is not about organization. This is about freeing cognitive bandwidth. When your mind knows that nothing will be forgotten, it stops using background processing to remind you. And that background hum, that mental noise, begins to quiet. Second, singular focus blocks. Context switching is cognitive sabotage. Every time you move from one task to another, you pay a switching cost. Your brain must release the previous context, load the new one, and rebuild focus. This process takes time, and it leaves residue. The solution? Time block your deep work. Not 30-minute fragments scattered across the day. 90-minute blocks, minimum, dedicated to a single problem. No email, no Slack, no notifications. During this block, your working memory can fully engage with one question. You eliminate interference. You allow depth. And depth is where value is created. Third, constraint-based thinking. Infinite options create infinite noise. When you approach a decision without boundaries, your mind generates every possible path. And because you're intelligent, you can see merit in many of them. So you deliberate, you compare, you reconsider. This is not careful thinking. This is unstructured thinking. The solution? Define constraints before you begin. What is the actual question you're answering? What resources do you have? What timeline applies? What options are genuinely viable? By narrowing the cognitive search space, you eliminate low-value deliberation. You channel mental energy into evaluation, not exploration. This is how decisions accelerate without sacrificing quality. Fourth, batch processing. Small decisions accumulate. Answering emails one at a time throughout the day, scheduling meetings as requests arrive, choosing tools or processes ad hoc. Each of these decisions is minor, but together they consume massive cognitive bandwidth. The solution? Batch similar decisions. Respond to all emails twice per day, not continuously. Schedule all meetings in a single weekly session. Make tool selections during quarterly reviews, not on impulse. By grouping similar tasks, you amortize the context switching cost. You make the decision once, then execute repeatedly. This reduces decision fatigue, and it frees your mind for strategic work. Fifth, mental model application. Thinking without frameworks generates noise. When you encounter a problem and start from scratch, inventing your approach, questioning assumptions, exploring angles, you're doing unnecessary cognitive work. The solution? Deploy mental models. First principles for complex problems. Second-order thinking for decisions with delayed consequences. Inversion for risk analysis. These are not shortcuts. They are scaffolding. They give your thinking a shape, so your mind doesn't waste energy building structure every time. Over time, you develop decision templates, patterns you recognize, questions you always ask. This is how experienced professionals make faster, better decisions. Not because they think harder, but because they think within proven systems. Sixth, Cognitive closing rituals. Open loops consume background processing. If you end your workday with unresolved tasks, unclear next steps, or ambiguous priorities, your brain continues working on them overnight. Not consciously, but subconsciously. This is mental noise during rest. The solution: implement a shutdown ritual. At the end of each day, review your capture system. Every task gets one of three outcomes: completed, deferred with a clear next action, or scheduled. Nothing remains ambiguous. Then, once per week, audit your entire system. Identify where noise is entering. Adjust. This ritual signals to your brain that all loops are closed, that nothing requires background attention, and your mind, finally, rests. Now, let's bring this into practice. Imagine you're facing a high-stakes decision at work, a strategic choice that will affect the next quarter. Without structure, your mind generates dozens of angles. You see possibilities, risks, trade-offs, and you deliberate for days, feeling the weight of the decision but making no progress. With structure, you approach it differently. First, you clear your working memory. You write down every other task, every lingering thought, so your mind is free to focus. Second, you define constraints. What is the actual question? What timeline applies? What resources exist? What options are viable? Third, you block 2 hours of uninterrupted time. No phone, no notifications, just you and the problem. Fourth, you apply a mental model. Second-order thinking. What happens after the immediate outcome? Inversion. What would guarantee failure? Fifth, you document your conclusion and next steps. You close the loop. The decision is made. The mental noise is gone. This is not about working harder. This is about working within a system that respects how cognition actually functions. And the results compound. In the first week, you notice reduced mental fatigue. Your mind feels lighter. In the first month, decisions come faster. You stop second-guessing yourself. In the first quarter, your output quality measurably improves. You produce more value in less time. Long-term, mental noise becomes rare. Not because you've eliminated complexity, but because you've built architecture to handle it. Mental noise is not a character flaw. It is the predictable result of intelligent minds operating without architecture. Your brain is powerful, but unstructured by default. Structure is not restriction. It is liberation. Clarity is not found in motivation or inspiration. It is built through systems. You do not need to think less. You need to think within a system. The noise will quiet itself. If this analysis clarified your thinking, consider subscribing. We publish one video per week, each designed to examine how intelligent professionals think, focus, and make decisions at a high level. Your subscription helps us continue producing long-form intellectual content in an environment that rewards distraction. Thank you for your focus.